Hey everyone, I'm Liz Fairy, and I'm just going to really quickly show you today the finishing touches on both my current doll body types by sewing the body of each doll. First, I'll show you how I shaped the thick doll body, then I'll show you how I shaped the thin doll body. You can find the link to the written patterns for both of these dolls, as well as the video tutorials on my channel in the description below. Before I begin, I just want to say that you should be careful doing this process, and make sure you really want to shape the body, because it's a little tricky to undo it if you happen to change your mind. But I think it's worth it because it really does add a lot to the look. Alright, let's get started. I'll be using a darning needle and some yarn of the same color to sew each doll. First, I'll fasten the yarn at the back of the doll by sewing back and forth a few times. Then I'll put the needle through the upper back to the front of the chest, just in between the bust. Next, I'll gather the fabric around each side of the bust by putting the needle through all the way around one side, then I'll pull on the yarn to gather the fabric. Now fasten the yarn by stitching back and forth a few times to keep the gathering in place. Then I'll do the same thing to the other side of the bust. Next, I'll pull in the fabric in a straight line down the middle of the back. First, I'll fasten the yarn at the top middle of the back. Then bring the needle out at the front. Pull the yarn gently while pushing in at the back of the doll to pull the fabric at the back toward the front. Then fasten the yarn, and put the needle back through to the back of the doll, and fasten the yarn there without pulling the fabric. I'll repeat this process all the way down the back. Be careful not to pull too hard when shaping the back, or you may warp the shape of the front of the doll too. Every once in a while you'll see me use the tip of the needle to kind of fix this by sticking the needle in and using the tip to fluff the fabric and the fiber fill inside back into the right shape. Now that I'm finally done with the back, I'll sew the shape of the rear. First, I brought the needle out at the front a little to one side of the center, and fastened the yarn there. Next, I'll bring the yarn in between the legs and place the needle at the top of the rear, pull the yarn tightly. Then I repeated the process, this time bringing the needle out at the front a little to the other side of the center before stitching between the legs. And fasten the yarn at the top of the rear. And this will just shape the front of the doll a little more realistically. Next, I'll sort of shape the back by pinching the back into a shape I like, and then stitching back and forth up the full length of the back. Then I'll sew in the remaining yarn, and this doll is pretty much done. Next, I'll show you the process of sewing the other doll, but the process is the same, so I won't go into detail again. Each of these steps for shaping the body is optional, and you can choose to use all of them or just a couple. For this other doll, for instance, I chose not to shape the back at the end. You can really see the huge difference sewing the body makes on these dolls. It adds so much detail, and I'm excited to see how the new shape looks once I add the clothes. Now this doll is pretty much done. That is, unless you want to shape the face and the head and add ears. I'll show you how to do this in my next video. In the meantime, why not check out some of my doll hair and doll clothing tutorials to get some ideas on how to finish your doll. I'll put some links to some of my doll hair and clothes tutorials in the description below. If you're interested in the written pattern for these crochet dolls, you can find the link to my pattern store on Ravelry, where you can find all of my designs, in the description below. And as always, if you use this technique to make a doll of your own, I'd love to see your interpretation. You can find all of my social media links in the description below, or you can tag me on Instagram at LizFairy. If you enjoyed this tutorial, you could press the like button, or share it on social media, and if you'd really like to help out the channel, you can donate to my Patreon. You can get some pretty cool perks through Patreon, like seeing my videos early, access to some of my prototype patterns, and discounts in my Ravelry store depending on your level of donation. You can find out more about that at patreon.com/fairyrings. You could also subscribe and click the bell icon so that you don't miss my next video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!